Hello beautiful people, and welcome to your astrological forecast or a hybrid video. And in this one we're going to be talking about full moon in Scorpio. I am pre-recording this quite ahead of a time because I will be actually traveling soon to Europe, and therefore there is a lot going on around me, so I will be releasing this just before we leave and just before the new moon hits. But at the time when I'm recording this, a lot of things I'm going to be covering and talking about haven't happened yet, so just bear with me. And also just a quick reminder, by the time you're watching this, my birthday sale will be almost finished, but it will be still ongoing. So if you haven't yet and would like to, then definitely take advantage of my discount, because this is the biggest annual sale that I'll be running throughout the entire year. And yeah, with all of that out of the way, let's just dive into the Scorpio full moon. So this is the second of the 6 new moon which we had between October and the summer this year, October and the Pisces new moon this year, that were on the 28-degree point. So now we're going to have the second illumination of that lunation on 28 degrees, which was the Scorpio new moon, and Scorpio new moon got seeded on November 20th, 2025. For some people, potentially it could have been November 19th, but a lot of us, November 20th, 2025. And yeah, that one actually was in a beautiful, it was part of the kite. It was in opposition with Uranus, but there was a beautiful kite. It was beautiful, supported by Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter. So they were in this grand water trine, and also sextiled by Pluto. So there was a lot of support that was going on at the time of the new moon in Scorpio. So that was a seeding of this new sense of self. Of course, because this is on a final decan, or it was on 28 degrees final decan of Scorpio, it was the Cancer decan. So it was an initiation of a transformation of the self, birth of the new version of self. And with the Uranus opposition, this is kind of like a Uranus opposition when we have in that, when we are in our 40s, mid 40s, which is like, okay, well, am I living my authentic expression, or am I feeling disempowered because the life that I'm living is not actually, in alignment with my authentic expression? Because of course Scorpio ruler Pluto is all about evolution. It's all about going beyond that which was experienced before, especially now with Uranus being the ruler of Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. So this is the full moon that we are covering here, which is taking place on May 1st, 2026. And actually at the time of this full moon, I'll be already in Europe, so it will be not happening for me at the time that's showing for me here, because I have the Vallarta time. And this one is actually challenged because it's squared by Pluto, and Pluto is in a T-square with the full moon. So there is a lot of pressure, because it's like, with Pluto, especially on these 5 degrees, this is pre-retrograde Pluto, of course, in his pre-retrograde shadow, because Pluto will station retrograde only 5 days later on May 6th. So Pluto is on these 5 degrees. 5 degrees is that's a degree of the creation. And also this full moon is happening on a second decan of Scorpio, which is about Pisces, and 11 degrees, that's Aquarius. So we are now really trying to break free from the Piscean role playing of the former archetypes, because with Saturn, Neptune both in the sign of Aries, and now in a new cycle with Mars as the ruler, and the cycle between Mars and Neptune that was resetted recently actually was the first time that they had a conjunction in the sign of Aries since 1874. So these are huge cycles. Of course, with Saturn it was only like late 90s, but still, different times that we were experiencing back then. So now with Mars still being a sign of Aries, for this one actually coming into square with Jupiter, and this will be for Mars closing square, so crisis in consciousness, what are we releasing? And Mars is on that 16-degree point, which is interesting because 16, in tarot is the tower, right? And this is the Leo decan. So Mars is also the co-ruler of this full moon, because of course Mars, traditional ruler of Scorpio. So Mars is in a square with Jupiter. Jupiter is still the traditional ruler of the North Node and being influenced by every single nation. So we have the ruler of the full moon, or one of them, squaring Jupiter, influenced by the moon herself. So this is about now allowing this new story to actually truly come online, right? Because Mars being in the Leo decan is like, okay, well, what are we creating now in this new cycle with Saturn and Neptune? What do we want to give a form to? Because of course then, Mars is going to go into Taurus, and it's going to start preparing the fertile ground for Saturn moving into the sign of Taurus in the next 2 years. So this is when the form will really start taking the form will the wishes and desires that we have in the seeds that we put into ground will start taking form and manifest. So this is all like a preparation, but it's already happening. It doesn't mean we have to wait 2 years to see anything happen. And also on a day of the full moon in Scorpio, we have in the exact conjunction between Mercury and Chiron. At the time of the full moon, Mercury is still close into Chiron, so they close in the cycle they began last year. And most important thing, which I forgot to mention, this will be the first lunation with Uranus in the sign of Gemini. So Uranus is re-entering the sign of Gemini on April 25th or 26th, depending where you are in the world. So by the time you're watching this, Uranus is already in a sign of Gemini. And we had Uranus in the sign of Gemini briefly last year between July and November, but then returned back to the sign of Taurus. And then Uranus will remain in the sign of Gemini now until August 2032. That's when Uranus will for the first time enter the sign of Cancer, and then remain there until December, and then goes back into the sign of Gemini in spring 2033, right? So this is the very first lunation with Uranus in the sign of Gemini, again in a sign of Gemini. Also, Venus and Uranus have this new cycle that began between the two of them, but the last conjunction, which happened on April 23rd, is happening still on the 29 degrees of Taurus. Actually, it's happening almost exactly in the same place as the conjunction they had last year. The one was on 29 degrees and 52 minutes, and now it was 29 degrees and 53 minutes. So it's actually almost exactly in the same place. And interestingly enough, another caveat, last year when Venus and Uranus conjunct on the 29-degree point, it was on the 4th of June. That was the day when Neptune stationed retrograde in Aries for the first time in our life. So here we go. Venus is in a new cycle. Of course, Sun will have the conjunction with Uranus in the sign of Gemini. That will be next month. So this is all jumping ahead. But also Venus is playing an important role, because Venus, she was doing something. I think she was sextiling someone. Let me see quick. Venus is, she's in the square with the lunar nodes. Yes, Venus is in a square with the lunar nodes, and the resolution node is being the north node in Pisces. So again, what are we releasing? What are we letting go? Especially with this Mars being squaring this Jupiter, and this lunation full moon in Scorpio being in a T-square with Pluto, right? And Pluto is actually conjunct Juno here as well. So we have a lot of things going on here, and also the nodes are coming into the square with Uranus as well, and that is also resolution node is being the north node in Pisces, ruled by Neptune in Aries. At the time of this full moon in Scorpio, Neptune will be on 3 degrees, which is the degree of creation, expansion, the Jupiterian degree, and also traditionally Jupiter, which, as I already mentioned, is in the forming square with Mars, and Jupiter is on 19 degrees, and 19 in a tarot is the Sun card, so it's all about creation, something new. And this is actually a Scorpionic decan and the Venus degree, so it's about balancing, creation through balance. So then we're gonna have the next full moon in Scorpio on November 9th 2026, and that will be on 16 degrees of Scorpio, so second decan, so there will be a Pisces decan. So this one is on 11 degrees, it's still Pisces decan, but different degrees. So with all of that said, all of that covered the actual astrology of it. We have a lot of energy here, as I already mentioned at the beginning. This is the second of the 6 new moons that we experienced between October last year and March this year, which took place on the 28-degree point, which is adding up to number 10, number 0 and the 1, just like the year we are experiencing at the moment, which is all about reset points. So this is the second one, and of course Scorpio, being ruled by Pluto and Mars, and Pluto being in Aquarius, acceleration, and Mars still being in his rulership in this new phase with Saturn and Neptune. It is going ahead, Uranus was, I mean, we still have the ingress of Jupiter into Leo at the end of June, and also in the middle of June, 19th of June, we'll have Chiron moving to the sign of Taurus, and then of course the nodes at the end of July, I believe it's July 26th, will be moving into Aquarius and Leo. So we still have some, very significant changes, sign changes that are upcoming. So we're not quite there yet with all the new players in the new roles, because Jupiter is still retracing his pre-retrograde path, right, from last year. But this is where our consciousness is truly expanding. We are becoming really, really aware of the things we weren't aware of back in, October last year, with the 28-degree Scorpio new moon, which was almost, it was almost the Sagittarius season. Right, so we didn't really know, back then, like, oh, what all of these things will mean, like we were still integrating the first ingresses of Saturn, Neptune, and then going back into former sign. And obviously at that stage we were preparing for Uranus to be moving back into Taurus it was literally like a week later or something, 10 days later. So we didn't quite know like all these new energies, what it will feel like, because what it will feel like when they go back into the old sign, because we had this like a taster, we had like this taster that, okay, well, there is a new energy here, like new kid on the block, like what is this? And then when they gone back into the old sign, then we had a contrast, like, okay, so it's something different that's coming through, it's something different that's gonna be going on here going forward. And again, it all sounds really fairy-lary, like a fantasy that, oh yeah, we're moving into this new cycle and this new way for humanity and this Aquarius age, and and the old stories are replaying in order to be transmuted, transcended. That's all true. But with the Aquarius, and especially by this point, by the point of this new moon in Scorpio, full moon in Scorpio on May 1st, which actually adds up to number 7 that day, May 1st, 7, May Day, May Day, right? It's saying that, well, how do you prepare when you don't even know what it's gonna look like? And with the Pluto squaring it, in a T-square with the moon, it's saying like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do, with the sun being on that Virgo decan of Taurus, the 11 degrees Aquarius degrees, saying, well, it has not been done yet, Virgo, South Node in Virgo, who was it, Uranus, yeah, and Venus both squaring the nodes, and the resolution is the North Node, with the ruler in Aries, and Jupiter in that Scorpionic decan of Cancer. It's saying like, well, it's a complete transformation, it's a complete metamorphosis of the experience of human on this planet. And this is also something that I've been like musing with my husband about, like we still think that this is just gonna look different, but it's gonna be in the same place, same setting, it's just gonna look a little bit different. But really just like repeating myself, like the saying from Einstein, you cannot think from the same level of consciousness that thing which you are experiencing was created, so it really is about, like, I really don't know what this is gonna look like, but it really cannot be fixed from 3D perspective, like things really have to change on a different level, which is the Aquarius, the Pisces, the quantum field tapping into something which is beyond our understanding, beyond our comprehension. That's why Mercury is exalted in Aquarius, because it goes like, well, like this is all just a copy paste repeat, but now we're going beyond, beyond that. And like I mentioned, Mercury here is closing to Chiron at the day of the full moon in Scorpio. So it's closing this cycle, Chiron, the rule between the key between Saturn and Uranus, like the old is ending, that is officially truly ending. I mean, we still will have Chiron in Aries again, from September. It's the stint in Taurus is going to be fairly brief this year. But eventually Chiron is gonna stay there, and it's gonna go like, like what are you going to grow and manifest depends on you, Taurus, your foundation. So that's why I feel like all of these lunations now are really challenging us, because these 6 new moons that got seated on the 28 degrees until the new moon in Pisces. And as I mentioned, I believe in my last video, when I was talking, not the last one, but maybe the one before, when I was talking about the full moon in Libra, this pattern will end with the eclipse, because like the 6 new moons on 28 degrees ended with the new moon in Pisces. That was the final one on 28 degrees that we experienced, because now the most recent one, the Aries one, was already on 27. The Taurus one will be on the 25th, and the numbers will start decreasing from then on. So the final one of these 6 new moons that were seen on 28 degrees will be the full moon in Pisces, which will be actually the final eclipse in Pisces. And we've not experienced any new moon in Pisces. It was all just a full moon in Pisces, just like before it was just new moon in Aries solar eclipse, and now we're gonna have just new moon in Leo solar eclipse, not full moon. So we have all these anomalies that are saying about, okay, things are, with regards to Pisces archetype, the illumination of the past, which is now really like we are at the crossroad, like, okay, what am I going to choose, where am I going to go? So with regards to the scorpionic energy, with the Pluto, in a T-square and being ruled by Uranus, that is now on this anaretic, coming into square with the lunar nodes, in the new phase with this Venus, the new cycle for Venus anyway, and Venus also squaring the lunar nodes, there is all this energy of like choice. Like, okay, like this resolution north node, which is saying like, okay, yeah, like we excavate the meaning of the past and we're now going into some other place, but what does it mean? How does it feel being embodied? So that's why we have this sun on this Virgo decan and Aquarian degree, saying like, well, pretty much, it's a complete change of pattern with regards to how we lived until this point. So what does that mean? That means that, everything we are experiencing in a 3D reality until this point, which is pretty much just a copy paste hamster wheel, same, even like it's just so interesting. Like even today with my husband, when we were talking about like, the people that we are coming into contact with, very Aquarian people, very like, aligned connections, that so many people like like there are so many similarities, that maybe not one person has all the same thing, the patterns or the experiences or the woundings or trauma, but like, and obviously by the law of attraction that would make sense, we keep attracting people that we are in resonance with, and then they hold similar energy or whatever, especially when it comes to trauma loops. But so many people are just processing the same energy, for themselves, their ancestors, humanity as all, just trying to make a new choice to break that pattern, So even though we have this full moon in Scorpio, and Scorpio is all about this empowerment, and empowerment is empowerment, but it's got this very strong, like a Piscean, Virgo-ish flavor. So that's why it's like, yeah, Mars is in Aries, it's a, let's go and create, but it doesn't have any form, it is in a rulership, but it's a, like, this is an initiatory energy, because it was initiated by the 28 degree, which is like, that adds up to the number 10. So it's saying, okay, now it's the illumination of that energy, which is saying that now we are at the crossroad. This is the first lunation with Uranus back in the sign of Gemini on the anaretic 0 degree, and Mercury as the ruler is conjuncting Chiron, close into Chiron, which is once again the key between Saturn and Uranus. Saturn in Aries, Uranus in Gemini, and then Saturn is in a square with Jupiter, right? So Jupiter is in a first quarter square with Saturn, so that is about crisis in consciousness. Yeah, Mars is in a closing square with Jupiter, so this is a crisis in action. Reverse, I'll take that back. Mars is in a closing phase square with Jupiter, so this is about crisis in consciousness. What are we releasing? We're releasing the old creation, the old structure of reality. Sun in Virgo, Sun in Taurus, Virgo decan, the old trauma loops, the survival patterns. That's what we are here to release, but with the Saturn to Jupiter, still within a degree square, obviously it's already dissolving, but still is applied. It is the crisis in action. We need to apply a higher wisdom. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. It's saying that you have to connect with your intuition, you have to connect to your inner guidance, because you cannot change this 3D reality in a 3D world. You cannot change it. There is a pattern, there are things in a place, structures of reality, people who are in charge of that structure that don't want change. They don't want change, so it cannot be changed through the 3D. It has to be changed through a higher frequency, which is all about connecting to the Christ consciousness, heart consciousness, universal love, unconditional love of the universe, the guidance from the heart, which is not polarized. It is not polarized. It's not about preference. I have this preference, that I like this, so it should exist, and I don't like this, so it shouldn't exist. That is the solar plexus, like I said last time, like that emotion of love, which is very egotistical, it is solar plexus. That is not the heart chakra. The heart chakra is the unconditional love of the universe, which is very neutral. It's very like an alien to us, it's very detached. It doesn't have a preference. It's just saying, well, this is how it is, this is where we get to as a humanity, it's the old, the Piscean age with all the fluffy stuff and being so emotionally attached to things. That's ended. I mean, Neptune is already in Aries. It's ended. It's on the 3 degrees, the degree of in astrology, degree of Gemini, but with regards to numerology, degree of Jupiter, the expansion through choice, through free will's choice. That's why Venus is squaring the node. Resolution is the north node, not the south node, the north node. She's saying, no, you have to go to spirit. You have to go beyond what was happening on this planet before, what was happening to humans before. Because like I said, I shared it in my last video, my husband believed that, those who know the history are bound to repeat it, not the other way around. Those who don't know the history, are bound to know, because it's the program, it's the story that's playing out in our mind, and we keep believing it. So that's why we find a proof for it, the mind is so strong and the body follows the mind. So, with this Mercury closing to Chiron, even though they have literally conjunction right after the full moon, but it's at the time of the full moon as a fixed point in the sky, Mercury is closing to Chiron. So we said that this old operating system, it just ain't gonna get there. It ain't gonna get there. It doesn't work. This is the Sagittarius decan. What is Sagittarius decan? Ruled by Jupiter. Where is Jupiter? Jupiter is in a square with Saturn and Mars. So we go back to the same thing. Jupiter as the ruler, co-ruler of the North Node. In Cancer, exaltation, the intuition. How does it feel to you? When you're watching all this, and this is such a paradox because we are so programmed, to focus on the negative. And I mean, everything I'm saying I already said, so I feel like a parrot, we are naturally programmed to focus on the negative. We always look at the negative. There is everything good going in our life. There's one thing that's not going good. We focus on that one thing, right? That's how we are by design. That's the program, right? So that one thing that we focus on, that we put all our energy to, that's the thing that's gonna be the most likely to manifest, especially if we put a lot of emotion in it. So this is why all these lunations are so important right now. Always, astrology is always playing its role, whether we consciously aware of it or not aware of it. And it's not like it's here to ordain your life, it just offers energy. And then, if you are aware of, this is very transformational energy here, but it's saying about release, it's saying about the choice. So actually, I do have a free will, it's up to me, I can choose. So it is about free will's choice. That's something that I realized. I don't remember whether I covered it with the new moon in Aries, when I said that I don't know whether I covered it there, because I don't know if it came to me when I was recording the video, but that new moon in Aries, yes, it resetted the cycles, I think I talked about it. It resetted the cycle of the eclipses in Aries. Yeah, I did mention it because I remember I said that there was no full moon lunar eclipse in Aries, right? It was just a new moon solar eclipse in Aries. So this new moon in Aries we had most recently resetted the cycle. So how traditionally people were afraid of eclipses because it was the destiny, the gods are in charge, but there's all our higher self, is the God source, but we are the extension, we are the creation of it. So this is when it goes does that thing have my best interest as part of the best interest, especially understanding that this is a cosmic love, unconditional love. This energy doesn't care who they're gonna remove from my life, if they're gonna take my job, if they're gonna make me homeless or whatever. It's you came there to grow and to remember your God's essence, that you can and will survive no matter what happens. So backpedaling back to this Aries new moon, what I realized that this was the first lunation, first new moon in Aries. Okay, let's be correct. First new moon in Aries since 2023 that we have our free will back, because before you can say like, yeah, universe was in charge. Like what happened between 2023 and technically this year, when the energy got reset, was that yes, there was energies that are beyond me, beyond you, beyond anyone, even beyond the government, beyond everything and everyone in creation, that were preparing the fertile ground, that were already preparing us that yes, we're going to be initiating this complete change. So that thing, it's non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable. It's not like, do I like it, do I not like it? No, I want things to stay the same. I want to experience life the same way as my ancestors did, copy paste. That is not negotiable. The energy was like, no, we are initiating change. That was alongside with Pluto moving into Aquarius since 2023. The change is here, the change is coming. So we technically had 3 years of like back and forth energy, first for Pluto and then for Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, which and is ending this year. I mean, like I said, Chiron is still gonna go back into Aries, but that's it. So we had this kind of almost 3 years, technically 2+ to prepare. Like, yeah, this energy is non-negotiable. It's happening. And now, with the new moon in Aries that happened recently, 2 weeks ago, it was like, okay, and now you can choose, knowing that these things are happening, that the world is changing and is never going to be the same. And for some people, they say, thanks God. And, there is an aspect of us that is grieving, that is saying like, yeah, but this is the devil we know. If this is gone, then what? What if I don't like that other things? Because we graduated, that's like I was explaining to a client the other day that, imagine you finish high school and you go to university or college, however you want to call it, doesn't matter the labels. You finish one school institution, you go to another one. So the one you just finished, let's say high school, you are the top, you're smarter, or, so you think from the perspective of the educational system than the kids that just like entered, right, the first year, and then you go to university and then you are at the bottom again, like, oh yeah, you don't know nothing, like especially the kids that are just graduating there and stuff. So it's like that, we graduated from the Piscean age, so it's kind of like we know all about it, we know all about these archetypes, this victim, martyr, the savior, prosecutor, or tyrant, that's very familiar. We've done it all, many times. And even in one lifetime, you played all the roles, just in relation to different people. Or most of us did anyway. So now it's like, okay, well, you're not going to play any of these roles. Now you have to choose some different role, and like, what? What else is there to choose? Well, it's not going to be a replication of the past, so it's going to be something different. So you're not going to find out by going through the archive of the past, aka the brain, or the mind, logical mind, the ego mind, right? Because that is not going to be helpful, because it's just going to create the same solutions to the same problems of the 3D, which are not going to create different result. It's just going to be copy paste, same old. And there is an evidence. We can look back at the history and how we try to resolve certain problems, and same problems or more evolved version of the same problems, so doesn't work. So now really this full moon as the second moon, after the full moon in Libra, which was about showing us the contrast, showing us the extreme, showing us the thing that needs to be balanced. Libra is the first sign that takes you to the upper hemisphere of the chart, the relational dynamic, where it is about me, but actually it's not about me anymore. So this is not just about me being here in this world and da. Yes, that's part of it, especially because, Aquarius opposition Leo, it's oneness through diversity, right? So it's like the individuation, your authentic expression is important, but it's important because then you to come together with other people, Libra, other people that share the same perspective, Gemini, right? To to make a choice to create something different, after Gemini, Leo, right? Leo in opposition with Aquarius, to break the patterns of the past. So it is about me, but it is not really just about me, just as it's always been, but now it's like more profound than that, because it's like, okay, now we cleaned up this old contract, to each other, with all our closest relation, or, we might feel it's still playing out, but technically it's ended, this is just the after effect, or just the phantom, the old habit, the habit is very habitual, so we already, the contract's finished, it's finished. So now it's like, okay, so now we're here to create something different. But what is it? And who am I in that? So now with the Scorpio full moon, it's showing us, like, especially with the square, to this sun and the moon in the second decan, So again, this is for the moon is the Pisces, and for the sun is the Virgo. And that's where we have the nodes, and they're in square by Uranus and Venus, like, hello, the former Venus is the former ruler of Uranus, and obviously the upcoming ruler of Chiron, and Uranus, as the ruler of Pluto. So they are both squaring the nodes and pointing to the north node, like, yep, there is a different way now. And then with regards to the moons themselves, the sun and the moon, the Pisces and the Virgo, again, like, we are dissolving something of the past, which is these roles, like, yeah, I am the victim of circumstances, I'm the martyr of the circumstances. Mercury is now closing to Chiron. It's saying, like, nah, this is not gonna play anymore, this is not gonna work anymore for us to keep being in alignment with this Saturn Aries, Neptune Aries energy, especially like Neptune. There's gonna be like the next 15-16 years, this is not like like for Saturn 2+ years, this is gonna be over a decade. So that's what I mean. So this is like a long-term stuff, that's gonna be going over for a while, okay, not like lifetime, but long enough. So this is where we can feel the pressure, from Pluto, that, okay, well, things really are changing. They really are changing. Everything is changing, like more and more people, they don't find a sense of purpose and meaning doing what they've always done, and they don't want to do it anymore. Before, like, yeah, through the culture, religious, guilt tripping, whatever, we were being pushed into the position, and because, like, we didn't see our own value, we said, like, okay, then, well, I just sacrifice, I'll just do what always been done, what everybody else is doing, because everybody's doing it. Yeah, but this is the oneness through diversity. I don't have to be doing what everybody else is doing. Oh, look at that person, they're doing something different and they seem to be doing all right, so this is what's happening over here. That now people are realizing that, no, I don't have to do what my mom did or my grandma did, or whatever, how many generations, 7 generations past, what they did. I can do something different. Like, now we have the options, and there are enough people that have the same desire, like, no thanks, I don't want to keep doing the same shit. So now these people are coming together and starting from the scratch, like, okay, well, how are we going to use what we know, the Pisces, the meaning of that, the excavation of that which still works, and apply it into this new cycle. Aries, apply it into this new cycle. So here the Scorpio comes and go, like, okay, well, let me make it a little bit more intense for you, so you can really feel it. So you really, really connect, you really connect with your deep emotions, because that's where all the messages lie. That's how am I going to know myself if I'm ignoring how anything makes me feel, if I don't tune into places, people, and stuff, and then maybe I get betrayed and I get scammed all over, over and over again, and I can't sleep properly in some place because I'm ignoring the wisdom of my body, which is, passed on from the ancestors. But also, still in co-creation with your spirit and my own intuition. So this is like where really, like, the dial is turning, to the higher flame. So, I mean, I don't know, obviously, what's going to be happening by the time this full moon actually peaks, on May 1st, like, all going well, I won't even be on this part of the side of the world, side of the world, hopefully still in this world, but not this side of the world. So there are a lot of things, there are a lot of things which, yes, are out of our control, that we can't control. So this is again what is forcing us to stop looking back, but, like, this is how things were, so this led to this and that led to that, so yeah, I can see the pattern repeating again, but no, it's not gonna be the same thing. That's why, like, even things that are happening which might not look that great, they will eventually create something good, you know, like the energy that is being presented eventually will transform into something else, you know, like it's like, okay, well, how work can turn up into something good? Well, maybe it will just like really make people to wake up to the realization that I can choose something different. I'm not doing this. You know, I'm not doing this. I'm not wasting my time participating in this charade that is not actually going to resolve anything. It's not going to create any better world. It's not going to create a change. You know, even though, yeah, there is that conviction that, oh yeah, you know, this war is different. It's going to create change. It's going to create something better. Like by proxy, like indirectly, but not the way that is being presented. So this is the energy. This is the energy that I'm tapping into here, especially like, you know, the main players, as I mentioned, you know, with the Mars being in a square with Jupiter, Saturn in a square with Jupiter, Venus square in the nodes, Uranus square in the nodes, Pluto square in the moon, and Mercury close into Chiron. So there are a lot of things, and I mean technically Mercury is still in a square with Jupiter, isn't it? Like kind of white square, I think, white orb. Yeah, it's kind of yeah, it's still, yeah, technically still there, you know, but like a little bit getting a little bit far, but technically it's still there. It's within the 10-degree orb. So yeah, so Mercury close into Jupiter, same thing, you know, crisis in consciousness. What are we releasing? So yeah, so there are all these things going on for us, and they all pretty much saying the same thing, you know, like things are changing. We are being forced externally, internally, from every direction to make a new choice, because the old choices are no longer available. They are no longer desired, and with all these cycles being reset already, the new cycle has already begun. Like I said, even after these full moon peaks, we're gonna have the Mercury conjunct Chiron exact, and they're gonna be in a new cycle. And Mercury now will be looked at closely because it's the ruler of Uranus until 2032 to 2033. So this is quite a while that we're going to be looking at Mercury going retrograde 4 times a year and trying to figure it out, like, what is this Mercury trying to tell us, you know, which is not based on the archive of the past, aka mine. So it's something else. It's something else. It's saying like, well, you know, we need to learn to tune into life differently, to perceive it differently, to connect with it differently, to vision it differently, so we can then experience it differently. So all of these things are being introduced, presented, and in some ways we are being pushed into them, because, you know, squares change doesn't happen easily most of the time. It doesn't have to happen hard, but most of the time we choose the path that is a little bit harder. So it's usually under pressure, you know, it's under pressure that the change happens. So that's why we seem to be having a lot of squares. I mean, like I already mentioned, with the new moon in Scorpio in October, we had October, November, when was it? Let me just check quick, because my brain is not working anymore. No, it was November 20th, yeah. November 20th, and then the one this year will be November 9th. Yeah, November 20th was the new moon in Scorpio, the one that we are seeing the illumination of. So anyway, so now I lost my train of thought. I don't even know what I wanted to say, but there's been a lot of things that took place since that time, and there are a lot of changes that happen, not just on a micro level, but in your own life. I'm sure, 100% sure about that. So now we are, oh yeah, so that moon, yes, thank you. So that moon, the new moon, you know, that was on 20th of November, that one had the kite, right? It had the kite, so it was a nice formation. It said like, okay, yeah, we are right on track, you know, the spirit is behind us, we are being supported, you know, this is all being supported by the God consciousness, universal consciousness, you know, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter, same thing. But like I said, to align, and I said that in my former videos, to align the human mind with the higher mind, it is not so easy, because human mind is trained to polarize, you know, in order to give you your sense of identity, to keep you alive and all that. It is programmed to polarize, you know, that is roles. This is good, this is bad, you know, this I like, this I don't like. So based on that, we become our authentic expression, in a sense that, yeah, this is me, you know, I prefer this, not that, you know, you prefer that, that's fine. So with that new moon in Scorpio, gosh, I lost it again. Seriously, my brain is just not working anymore. So with the new moon in Scorpio and the polarization. So because it was supported by the God, the source, it said that, okay, now we're going to have to learn to apply the higher mind, the higher self, the higher consciousness to observe reality differently. Like it's so funny because like everything always plays out in my life. Like I was talking to my husband about this like this morning, and it was like, let me just try to get my things together. The polarization, the preference, the higher mind, the spirit. Yeah, I'm just seriously losing my thread. I don't know what's going on today. So the higher mind, getting that integrated into everyday reality. Let me just pause. Okay, I got it, I remembered. So it's like, how can you observe something without becoming it? So you can observe whatever is going on outside of you, whether that's in your life or in the world, but how can you not become the energy? So for example, if somebody complains to you about something they're experiencing, or they're sharing their grief or whatever they're experiencing, how can you hold a space for the person without becoming, the energy or becoming the emotion? Like, okay, yeah, now I'm gonna get angry with you. So we share that emotion where it's like, yes, I can hold the space, I can compassionate, and at the same time I can, as much as I can, remain in my equilibrium, in my point of neutrality, so I can help you to get there yourself. So that's what we were talking about, because with the state of the world and everything that's going on and playing out everywhere, it's like, we have a righteous indignation, and we want to become the whatever emotion, like the anger or the justice or whatever it is, but actually becoming overly polarized, we are not helping anything, right? Like, if somebody is already depressed and then we go like, oh yeah, I'm depressed too, then how am I going to help the depressed person? They're already depressed. Me adding to the depression, it's not going to help them. So this is what I feel like, and this is what Jupiter is really teaching us, especially now in the Scorpionic decan, and the 19th degree, which is the Libra. Exactly. Yes, exactly. It's teaching us how to remain in our equilibrium, the strength of your, expression through the higher self, or expression through a different level of consciousness, is to apply this higher mind, this wisdom of the universe, which remains neutral, doesn't have a preference. The universe is not having a meltdown or mental breakdown just because, like, oh my god, yeah, this character, avatar is going through some difficult situation. No, the universe see the whole picture and say, okay, this step is necessary for something else, for something else that person will figure out later on, becomes an international speaker, or help other abused women, or whatever. You just never know. You never know in a moment. We only know when we look backwards, when we look back and go like, oh, now I understand. So that's what I mean. So something that I feel we're really strongly learning with this Jupiter, being involved with Mars and Saturn ruled by Mars, it's this, how can we master our emotion enough to become neutral, like, I still feel stuff, but how can we not allow that which is going on outside of us, whatever it is, to completely take us down, because then we add into the same energy, then I just, burn my life force and I can't do anything, so that's what I mean. So this is like something which I feel, with this higher mind, and, like the kite that was present for the new moon in Scorpio, which now we are unpacking. We are saying like, okay, yeah, now is the year 10, the year 0 and the 1, full moon in Scorpio over here, in the Pisces decan. So it's like, okay, what does this mean? Because it's the illumination of that energy. So what did it really mean? What was that new moon in Scorpio trying to tell us, all these months ago? What was it trying to tell us? What was it trying to help us understand? That, you cannot create a different reality in any other way. Like, we need to master the mind and allow the higher mind to guide, which is not programmed by the past, but it's coming from someplace all completely different, and on the emotional front to engage the the higher, the heart, right? The higher consciousness, right? The higher heart, you know, which creates then the coherence between the heart and the mind, and then the pattern can be broken. So this is what I feel, you know, there is so much interference. Yeah, no kidding. So much interference because it's trying to take over. It's trying to like hijack. It's trying to hijack, you know, hijack your mind, hijack your emotion. Look at this, hear this news, look at these pictures, you know, listen to everyone and their opinion and choose your side and stuff. And like, okay, well, is this gonna change anything? No, there's just gonna be, you know, this amount of people on this camp and those amount of people on the other camp, but it's not gonna create anything new. It's gonna be same. So that's what I feel, you know, like with all of these lunations, the full moons we're talking about now, the full moons to the new moons that were seated on 28 degrees, which will end with the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces again at the end of August. We are learning quickly, you know, at the fast pace. We are learning, and that's why I feel like September, you know, is gonna start a whole new year for us, you know. September will be like, it will be a whole completely different year, you know. It's like the energy of these first you know, few months, and then going into summer, you know, first 4 months, and then another 4 months, because, you know, then we have the eclipses in August. I feel the final 4 months of the year, that will be a different energy, completely different energy. That's at least what I feel, you know, especially with the beginning of the Libra season, the equinox, the initiation of the new energy. So it is very interesting energy, you know, that we are all learning to process in a different way, because if we keep doing the same thing, thinking about things the same way, feeling about things the same way, nothing's gonna change. And guess what? Now with the horse and with the speed, you know, especially with Uranus in Gemini, the speed of things is so rapid that it's just like, you know, we can have like a bad habit or a crutch or something that it's just like been helping us for a time and stuff. So we didn't have to face whatever it was that the crutch was helping us to not face and stuff. Now that's not possible. You know, it's not possible, because the universe will just bring the lesson again and again and again and again and again, you know. So there is no breather. So you just have to deal with it. You know, the crutches are not helping anymore. The crutches, the avoidance is not doing anything anymore, because it's not going to like come around next year. It's going to come around tomorrow, maybe in an hour. So it's like, oh Jesus, you know, this again. So that's what I mean, you know, like ready or not, things are changing and they're changing quickly. And this horse is not waiting. It's not a snake. It's not waiting like, oh yeah, the skin is going to be shed gradually. It is going for it, you know, with the fire energy, it is going fast. So this is why we have so many things, you know, so many things happening at the same time at the rapid pace. But just like with the TV channels, you have to choose the channel you're watching. You have to choose the channel you are tuning into, and that is not easy, you know. It's not easy because we are so used to being told what to do, how to think, how to feel, you know. Or by observation, you can see a little child, you know, when it falls, it looks at the parents. How am I supposed to feel about this? You know, before it even starts crying, it looks at you, and depending on your response, it has a response, because it's mirroring, you know. The universe mirrors you know, and you learning to mirror the universe. So that's what I mean. All of these things that are happening, they are not what they seem. Nothing's what it seems, you know. There are so many things that are happening behind the scenes which we don't know, and we don't understand necessarily why things are happening. We think we know, we think we understand, but we don't, you know, because the pattern is broken, the pattern is changing, and we will understand later, at least an aspect of what's happening later. So anyway, so I'm gonna leave it at that and pull some cards, because already 47 minutes, and I'm sorry for the blips, but yeah, it's just a lot of distraction and interference going on. All right, so let's let the Queen of the Moon to speak. So this is the Queen of the Moon message for the full moon in Scorpio on May 1st, 2026. Queen of the Moon, what is the message for the full moon? Oh, okay. Abundance. You know, when I was shuffling the deck before, there was a card of protection and pleasure. Well, these are very good cards, you know. I mean, this is the number 11 and this is a 9. So because it is about the full moon, you know, so it is the illumination, and it is the first one with Uranus in Gemini. Mercury as the ruler is close into Chiron, so the key, you know, to this new story, you know, Chiron on the Sagittarius decan, 27 degrees, you know, that's the Leo, not the Leo, the Gemini, so that's the choice, you know, Uranus again, 0 degrees, da 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 da. The choice is up to us, you know, so it really is just like what was coming through, and it's coming through like every client, you know, like just focus on what makes you happy, focus on what you desire, focus on what you want to manifest, you know, focus on what makes you feel good, you know, like stop focusing on the things that don't. And you know, we all say, but I need to be informed, I need to know what's going on, I need to know, you know, but then be disciplined, you know, how much time do I invest, how much of my reality, everyday life is influenced by this energy, you know, like, yeah, you know, if you are at the forefront of that energy, then that's the role you chose, and I salute you for that. But if you're not, you know, then just focus on something else. So yeah, so the abundance, like, and this is again, you know, it's paradoxical, because you might think like, well, how is this abundant, you know, having this experience and the stuff, you know, that's going on everywhere, you know, how is this the harvest, you know? But for the spirit, it's like, oh yeah, we're getting somewhere, you know, we're getting somewhere. Finally we harvesting all this effort of this, you know, all these lunations, solar eclipses in Aries, you know, we're going somewhere now. Yeah, we're going somewhere. And then yeah, the pleasure, you know, with the number 9, especially like through the endings of something, we are learning like, okay, if this energy is gone and I have to choose a new thing, you know, imagine like you have to give away your clothes because, I don't know, you lost weight or something, and you know, you just have to change your wardrobe and stuff, so you have a clear out, you change it. So you're not gonna buy clothes that like you look at and think, oh, ugly, no thanks, you know, you're gonna choose nice clothes, you're gonna choose things that like make you feel good, right? So if you clear in the old energy, old clothes, old shoes, old anything, doesn't matter, you know, because you're done with that energy, you ain't gonna change it for something that is worse, you know, hopefully you're gonna change it for something that's better. So from the spirit perspective, it's like, great, you know, harvest, you know, we don't have to do this anymore, you know, it's done. And then we are being invited through the pressure, challenges, you know, through which we grow, like, okay, what am I choosing instead? You know, what would make me feel open, what would make me feel expanded? You know, this is kind of like an atom, all these like squiggles and stuff, you know, like a quantum field. If I can go and ask for anything, what it would be, you know, the final process of the manifestation, the final human number, number 9, you know, because after that is a master number frequency, which is this one, 38, aka number 11, you know. So the spirit is like, yeah, you know, with regards to us, we are like right on track. With regards to you, human, okay, well, you know, you have the opportunity to now choose, because the free will is back with you. The eclipse season is finished, so choose, you know. That's like, yeah, funny thing with the 7 of Cups, it's not a Pisces card, it's actually a Scorpio card, you know. So yeah, choose, you know, through, you can choose what helps you to grow. So anyway, that was just a side note. Let's do Queen of the Sun. Queen of the Sun, let's see what the Queen of the Sun has in store for us. Queen of the Sun energy. Okay, same jumper. Boundaries. This card has been coming up so much, it's ridiculous. And that's 39. We have a sequence here, which is number 12, which is number 3, and at the bottom is life. Wow, these are very interesting cards, and so similar, you know, the color codes, you can see very similar. What gives you pleasure in life, you know, which you're discovering through contrast, number 5, through the disruption. And here, you know, all the greens. And this is an eclipse, right? You can see that's an eclipse card. It could be very well related to the eclipse in summer, you know, August 12th. There will be the first solar eclipse in Leo, you know, which is the creation. The soul's desire now, you know, is to create, you know, like, yeah, we've had all these eclipses in Aries, you know, new moons saying, okay, yeah, we initiate a new energy. Now we had the first one in Aquarius this, you know, past February. It said, okay, we break in the pattern. We're going to initiate the freedom. What is freedom? A choice, right? And then here we go, you know, I feel this could be our eclipse in Leo. But in any case, it is boundaries. So this card came up for so many clients, this card, which is really saying that, well, you know, with the pleasure card and everything we've seen, you know, and this is Saturn, Chronos. So the manifestation at the moment is, you know, is waiting. The things that are in a non-physical form, quantum field spirit form, they already there, you know, like there was another conversation I had with my husband, it's funny, where we were, a side note, but I'm gonna come back to this. We were saying that, you know, like people said, you know, fairies don't exist or whatever, and he said, somebody said on some YouTube video that, oh no, they exist, you know, they're just in different dimension. I'm like, well, I knew this since I was a kid, you know, when I went to forest looking for fairies, and I was like, I know they're here, I just can't see them, you know. So it's like that. So imagine, you know, in a non-physical realm there is already life waiting to be manifest, you know, but you might say, well, but it's not here yet, you know. It's like underground, you know, it's underground, like in winter, you know, the seeds are in the ground or whatever, the life is under the snow, but you can't see it because it's snow, right? So it's like that. So with the 14, which is the temperance card, you know, the Sagittarius card actually, and it's about the healing, you know. So we are going through a process, like there is a lot of healing still going on. I mean, North Node is in Pisces, so yeah, a lot of healing. South Node in Virgo, healing of the past, right? Even though, I mean, the past is already gone, but you know, there is still the tidying up going on. So there is a lot of energy waiting to be manifest, you know. And through this chaos disruption number 5, you know, the chaos agents, we are learning that, okay, well, what do I want to manifest? If this what I'm experiencing is unwanted, then obviously naturally I want to experience this, you know, whatever makes me happy and alive, you know. But then you have to protect it, you know. So this is like a double Capricorn, double Saturn. You know, you've got the Saturn, and, you know, Saturn, Capricorn, the archetype represents the boundaries, you know, you as the creator, you as the authority, you know, when you figure out what it is that you desire, and you don't have to have the whole project, you know, in your mind out. Sometimes it happens, you get a full download, and sometimes you just get peace, you know, step by step. When you know what it is that you want to bring from this realm into the physical realm, you know, into this state, the state of abundance, the harvest, the manifestation, you need to protect it. You know, you need to just go like, yeah, I'm in my little bubble, you know, the world might be going to the end, it might be blown up tomorrow, but you know what? In my little bubble, right here, right now, this is the way, this is the world I am creating, you know. So with the new moon solar eclipses that are coming online in August, and this is a 39, which is a 12, which is a 3, and it's August. Yeah, it's August 12, right? Yeah, it's August 12, perfect. August 12, exactly, goosebumps. Exactly, August 12. And August 12 adds up to what? Number 11, and we are in a year one. Number 12. Exactly. So, boundaries, yeah. You know, now with these initiatory energies, which now we came out of, I mean, we're already in Taurus season, but, you know, the new moon in Aries we most recently had, it's saying that, okay, what do you want to create with your free will? What is it? What do you want to create? And then once you have a little bit of an idea that, okay, this is the next thing I want to experience, the next thing I want to create. Why? Because it makes me feel good, because it's the contrast to what I'm experiencing right now, which doesn't make me feel good. Then you have to put it in the bubble with you, like, look, you know, she's waiting for her man, you know, she's with the wedding dress, but there is no guy, right? But she's manifesting him, that which I desire to marry with, to marry to, you know, whatever that is, a person, job, you know, energy. I am waiting, you know, I am bringing it closer and closer. The universe will respond, it has to, it has no choice. So yeah, watch out for the solar eclipse in Leo. Yeah, so and there's Leo season, obviously, so that will be the square to this energy, which is how the energy grows, through the pressure. All right, now before I pull the activation oracle, you know, the gate portal deck from Cal Gray, I'm gonna use the Dark Mirror, which is a deck that I usually use for the Scorpio lunations, because it shows the unconscious. So we're gonna ask the Dark Mirror what is illuminated to us with regards to micro macro, because mirroring each other, right? Okay, what is the energy that the subconscious, unconscious energy, collective and also individual that is being illuminated for us at this time. What do you have for us? Okay, I'm gonna take the first one and the bottom one. What is this? Atonement. Oh wow, this looks like a 10 of swords to me. And black flower fragrance. This is a number 16. You know, I have the booklet ready because this deck is a little bit different, you know, so not always able to fully decipher what they mean. But yeah, we can see here is number 31, which is number 4, the new foundation, and you can see the swords. This is literally like a kind of like a 10 of sword card, you know, when the person is lying on the floor, you know, and is this 10 swords. How many? She got 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. She's got 11 swords. So with the Mercury close into Chiron, like I said, we cannot create different reality using the same program, the same software, you know, we're just going to replicate the same thing. So I feel with this card, you know, as it is with the 10 of swords, even though it looks quite gruesome, it's saying that you freed from that suffering, but before you freed from the suffering, that which is making you suffer has to become conscious, you know, it comes online. That's why the nightmares and the situations like, oh my god, my worst fears, you know, and then we rise above it, you know, just like I mentioned, I shared, you know, I think it was my practical application of astrology when I said that the way that I'm learning to overcome my fear, you know, of dark, of the unknown and stuff, is to wake up at 3 in the morning to go and sit in the dark. You know, that's what I'm doing. And then every time I can hear some noise or something and my heartbeat goes like crazy, like what is there, you know, it's just like, okay, breathe, you know, just breathe through it, you know, you are immortal in a sense, and you know, the God, your higher self, your spirit guides, they're always with you. It doesn't mean bad things don't happen, but you know, like, why worried about it, you know, ahead of a time. So this is like where you can see she's standing straight and she's walking, you know, so she, in a sense, to me, it's like we feel we have to atone for the thoughts of the past. But with the 4 and Saturn obviously being in Aries and Mars being in a new cycle with Saturn and Neptune, both of them, it is like we don't have to keep atoning for anything anymore, you know, like, no, it's time, especially with Chiron soon to be moving into Taurus, to love yourself enough to free yourself from that, to say, yeah, I did the best I could at the time, you know, now I can do better, and next time I'll do better again, you know. So it's like letting go of the mind that is punishing, you know, judgment, criticism, allowing you to stand and say, like, no more, this is not gonna be what creates my new chapter, my new experience. And then it's a black flower fragrance, number 16. That's a tower card, and yeah, I actually have never seen this card before, so I am going to use the booklet because, you know, I am not quite sure what they're trying to say with this one, but obviously whatever is coming out needs to be released, you know, like there is a full moon we can see there, so stuff is being illuminated. So I'm going to use the actual deck to interpret this one, but I'm gonna stick to what I said about the first one. So this is the number 16. Number 16 in Tower. Tarot represents the Tower card, as I mentioned, and also 16 is the Cancer degree. So here we go. Black flower fragrance, moon phase is full, stage is anger. And it says, the world is unfair, fuck off the dear world, fuck you. And the visual seed is a beautiful woman. Her face with a hint of resolve holds a strange black rose on her chest. It seems to explode like a crystal, each petal an obsidian shred. Protection, right? Sentence, if you want to go dark, go black. Don't stop to the evening, but embrace the night. Embrace the dark. Going dark, love is not a white dove, nor it turns people into angels. Love can be ugly, love can be cheap, love can be rotten, but even ugly love has a right to exist. Even cheap love can rise to the sky. Even rotten love has a dignity of eternity. Even a black rose by any other name should still smell as sweet. Even if you are wrong, you still have a right to be angry. Even if you're not perfect, you have a right to be respected. Even if you are stupid, you have the right to be listened to. Even if you are lucky, you have the right to complain. Even if you are rich, you have the right to be sad. Even if you cannot shine because you are beautiful, then shine even if you are ugly. Shine because you are ugly, gorgeously black, ugly as love, worn out as an angel, cheap as a crown, unconquered as a fragrance of the night. I'm getting so many goosebumps. So I feel, in a essence, this is about all the darkness coming out because it wants to be loved. Like it's interesting because I had this observation with regards to personal matter, when I said that like, even if I don't like it, even if I don't think it should be alive and exist in the universe, it has a right. It has a right because it is here for something or for someone. Everything's got a purpose and meaning. So that's what I feel like, all these things, because for as long as the mind will polarize and judge and criticize, that there will be polarization, which eventually we want to raise above it, because everybody has their truth, everybody has their rights. So anyway, so with this, I feel, with this full moon in Scorpio, again, I don't know what's going to be happening on the world stage or in your personal life or in my personal life. I mean, I'm going to be back around my parents, so let's see. Things are coming up in order to be allowed to be what they are, because what we resist persists. So once I stop fighting around about this energy that it shouldn't exist, shouldn't be here, then the energy will lose the power. It will lose its power, because suddenly I will not get triggered by it. And that when you learn your lesson with regards to triggered, once I stop judging that which triggers me, then next time I encounter the same thing, I get triggered less. So all of these things are coming up to the surface to end the ego mind game. This is all just a game, to end it, to allow that, yes, if this is what whoever out there desire, then they can have the experience, but it's not my experience. And what if more and more people decide, this is not the experience I want to experience, here is my experience, let me tune into it, what I want to be in a relation with, the less people will start contributing to their energy to the things they don't want, then eventually that energy will just stop exist. It will not exist anymore. So this is where it's all coming up. It's all coming up to be seen, all the ugliness, all the darkness. So we say, like, this is not the energy that I prefer, but I guess if it's in existence, it still reflects something out there that wants this energy. But my job is to focus on this, because I cannot go and destroy and remove everything that I don't want from this world, but I have the power to create my own. So this is a very hard pill to swallow, because these are big teachings, the number 7, which is the Neptune. These are big teachings which are saying that, unconditional love of the universe, nothing is what you think it is. And we have the opportunity to incorporate more of the compassion, but with the boundaries, not everything is acceptable. I can have a compassion, but I don't have to become that energy. We go back to the same thing. I can have a compassion for that energy. I can have a compassion for your complaining, for your suffering, for your whatever it is. But I'm not going to help you by becoming and embodying the same energy. So that's what I feel like. A lot of things that are unwanted are coming up, so it can finally end. But not looking at it from that perspective that, when is it going to end? She said it's going to end. When is it going to end? It's like, we just have to focus on something different. All right, there is a serious start. Yes, proceed, be seen, push through. Okay, let's see the gates, because it's already so late. Such a long video. But I don't expect to be recording probably another one for a while, so let's see. Okay, what gate is being opened with this Scorpio full moon? Star being healing codes, important information, wounds are healed, recharging. That's what I mean. There is a lot of healing going on, even though it doesn't look nice. It's like the bone that set wrong, you know, like it healed wrong, so it had to be broken again to be reset. So that's why all these old energy are coming up, because the way the energy, the energy emotion was dealt with in the past didn't allow it to truly heal. So there's, even though we might look at things and think there's so much distraction going on, through the distraction there is a lot of healing that's going on at the same time. You know, like you can see, the planet is actually going through a healing. And then ancestral realm, karmic release, healing the lineage boundaries. Healing boundaries, you know, the ancestor, the old wise ones. Standing here on the shoulders of the ancestors, learning to open a new path. You know, yes, things are, you know, and here the DNA being purified, the crystalline DNA coming online through the fire, you know, through the fire of indignation, anger, whatever the fiery energy we are experiencing still. I mean, Mars is still in Aries, even though it is a Taurus season already. So here we go. You know, the old karmic cycles have ended. Karmic release. We are healing. We are healing the planet through situations that might not make any sense to the ego mind, for sure. And then we have Major Arcana, and I'll end with that. Major Arcana message for this full moon in Scorpio, please. Alright, this one wants to be seen. Emperor. Yeah, you know, you can say that Emperor represents the Mars, right? The Mars in Aries. To me, it's Mars in Capricorn. But in any case, this is the conscious creator of reality. It is again a number 4, just like we had here. Atonement. You know, we finished the atonement cycle, you know, of martyrdom and whatever. Now it's time to create something new beginning. The Aries energy, the Saturn in Aries, new beginning. And at the bottom is the Fool. Perfect. I mean, yeah, stepping into unknown, new horizons to be explored. Look, you know, in our ignorance, you don't know where you're going. If you knew you would be repeating the same path, you don't know where you're going. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But yeah, we need to learn to master the mind and emotion in order to be okay with that. Sitting in the dark, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what's out there, but I just show up. Yeah. So anyway, with that, guys, thank you very much if you're still watching. And yeah, if you haven't yet and want to book reading with me, if you wish to, I will be offering actual sessions from May, because I don't have any more time to do any this month. But once again, thank you, and I wish you all a wonderful full moon in Scorpio. And yeah, let's see what's gonna happen with all of these energies coming through, wanting to be seen and healed and transformed. And I'll see you on the other side of it. So what we're going to have next will be the Taurus new moon. Yeah, that will be the one on a 25 degrees. So hopefully all going well. I'll be again in a different place. So much love, everyone, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now. I'm waiting for the 11.